The coffee in her paper cup had gone cold an hour ago. She didn't notice. The lights in the precinct's records office buzzed above like a swarm of restless wasps, and the air stank of mildew, paper, and the kind of bureaucracy that made things disappear. But Naomi Reyes wasn't here to disappear. She was here to expose someone who had perfected the art of it. Naomi had grown used to being overlooked. A 27-year-old Latina from the south side of Chicago, the kind of woman people assumed was working at reception or maybe temping in administration. Not an investigative analyst with a psychology degree and a stubborn streak that bordered on obsession. When she requested access to inactive badge logs for the last 18 months, the clerk barely glanced up. "Those aren't your department," he grunted, flipping a stale donut into his mouth. "Why don't you talk to someone in forensics if you're bored?" She smiled politely, slid her clearance pass across the desk, and said, "Actually, I'm working under Lieutenant Mercer on the Task 10 case. He gave me full access." That was a lie. Lieutenant Mercer hadn't spoken to her in weeks. But Mercer was also the kind of man who left folders lying around labeled confidential, and Naomi had a habit of reading things people didn't expect her to see. The city had been shaken by a string of cases, small on paper, huge in weight. Assaults during traffic stops, unwarranted home searches, victims claiming the suspect was in uniform, badge and all, except when the departments checked. No officers were scheduled on those streets at those times. It was Naomi who spotted the first pattern. The same precinct code was named in 4 different reports across 3 boroughs. Badge 4977. The officer's name? Michael Dorn. Except, no such officer existed. He wasn't on payroll. No academy record. Nothing. That alone should have been enough to trigger a citywide alert. But her supervisor dismissed her quietly. "Someone's just wearing stolen gear. Happens all the time," he said, already shifting his eyes to the next email. "Cops leave their badges in lockers. Uniforms get lifted from laundries. This ain't a movie, Reyes." But Naomi wasn't trying to make a movie. She was trying to stop a man who had convinced half a city he was one of the good guys, and used that lie to commit crimes no one wanted to admit were real. 3 weeks later, Naomi was waiting outside an unmarked building in the back of the Yards district. The address had shown up in the logs, twice, after unreported stops. Most beat cops didn't have access to the old call history data, but Naomi had found them. Quiet calls, no dispatch reports, no follow-ups. As she waited in her beat-up Corolla, watching the shadows shift behind drawn curtains, she remembered what the first victim had said. He was calm, the woman had whispered, eyes darting to the recorder. Polite, like a real officer. He even showed me a warrant. Said it was just a check. Naomi had asked to see the document. It was typed in Times New Roman. No court seal. No judge signature. It wasn't a warrant. It was a prop. Naomi didn't move when the door opened. The man who stepped out looked like every off-duty cop you'd ignore on the street. Stocky, clean-shaven, black tactical pants, a badge clipped to his belt just visible under a windbreaker. He walked with the confidence of someone used to not being questioned. And yet, Naomi's skin crawled. Because she'd seen that face once before. Not on a watch list, not in a lineup, but on a support group forum for ex-military whistleblowers. The name he'd used was Thomas Ward. But the man in the forum had scars on his jawline and a different nose shape. A fractured identity. A chameleon. Naomi started her car quietly and pulled out behind him. This was no longer just about a stolen badge. This was methodical impersonation. A performance played out so convincingly, with such precision, that even the city's most vigilant systems couldn't catch it. Over the next 10 days, she tracked him. He moved like a ghost, never staying anywhere longer than necessary, always blending in. He had a cop's posture, a cop's voice, even a cop's scent, the faint mix of sweat, starch, and institutional authority. But Naomi saw what others missed. His shoes. They were polished too often, like someone trying too hard. His radio chatter. It didn't match department codes, too generic. And his timing. Always between patrol shifts. Never during. She gathered evidence. License plate photos. Security footage where he loomed just out of frame. Gas station receipts. She was building a file brick by brick. When she brought it to Mercer, He sighed like she was offering him an overdue library book. Naomi, he said with that bureaucratic fatigue she'd grown to despise, this isn't going anywhere. No one's gonna believe some psycho cosplayer is this careful. You don't even have a motive. She looked him dead in the eye. Then maybe it's time someone asked why he's doing this. And then, someone died. A man found in his apartment, wrists zip-tied behind his back, gunshot to the head. No signs of forced entry. No known enemies. But his neighbor, she told a different story. He got pulled over last week. Said the officer warned him about pending charges. But the guy let him go. Said something about wanting to give him a chance. When Naomi saw the security camera footage from the building lobby, she nearly dropped her coffee. There he was. The same man. Windbreaker. Badge. Quiet voice. She enhanced the frame. Behind him, a white SUV. Government plate. Not in any official vehicle database. He'd fabricated everything. Even the car. But this time, Naomi had enough. She went around Mosa and brought the file straight to Internal Affairs. The first thing they said, we've seen this before. But not in Chicago. In Seattle, 5 years ago, a man had impersonated a federal agent, toured high schools, ran drills, issued citations. It took months before someone figured out the IDs were faked. By then, 3 women had filed sexual assault claims. He vanished before trial. Then 2 years later in Miami, another ghost. Same build, same style, same badge number, 4977. It wasn't a coincidence. This man had created a career out of pretending to protect people and hurting them instead. The final piece fell into place when Naomi met with a retired police gear distributor. She showed him a grainy photo of the imposter's vest. He whistled. That's custom. That rig? That's not department issue. It's a collector's knockoff, but a high-end one. I only ever sold 4 of those in the state. She held her breath. You have names. He nodded, pulled up the invoice list. 3 were legit officers. The 4th, a man named Marcus Dunn. No current address. No employer. But he had once applied for a civilian police liaison job and was rejected for failing the psych exam. The notes read, obsessive identification with law enforcement role, elevated narcissistic traits, poor impulse control. Naomi stared at the file. He wasn't playing a part. He believed he was the part. She turned the report over to IA. They thanked her, told her to stand down. We'll handle it from here. And for 3 days, she tried to sleep. But her phone rang on the 4th. Another assault. Another victim. Another fake traffic stop. They hadn't acted fast enough. Naomi went back into the records office without permission. The clerk tried to block her. We've got orders, Reyes. You off the case. She didn't blink. She pulled out her pass. Actually, she said calmly, if you check your system, you'll see I've been deputized by IA for field liaison. Special access. You don't want to get in the way of an active operation. He hesitated, gulped, let her through. She went straight to the internal vehicle tracking logs. Found the white SUV again. Last ping, Garfield Ridge. She was in her car before the sun rose. The neighborhood was quiet. Too quiet. Early morning haze settled like fog on the ground. Naomi parked 2 blocks away and walked. She didn't wear a vest. Didn't carry a gun. She had a camera, a pen, and enough certainty to put the world on pause. She found the SUV parked neatly outside a small duplex. The badge was on the dashboard. The door was unlocked. She didn't touch it. She lifted her camera, snapped every angle, opened her phone, began uploading to cloud. Then the door creaked, and she heard his voice for the first time. You know, you're better than the rest of them. She turned. He stood there, clean-shaven, windbreaker zipped, the badge on his belt glinting in the light. Marcus Dunn, the man who had lived as a cop in 3 states. The man no one believed was real. Until now, the man in front of her wore authority like a tailored suit. Calm, almost amused, he took a step forward, arms relaxed at his sides. You've been following me, he said, like they were old acquaintances. I respect that. Naomi's heart pounded beneath her thrift store blazer, but her face didn't move. You're impersonating an officer, she said. Her voice was steady, low. That's a federal offense. And you know it. He tilted his head, like a teacher disappointed by a bright student's misstep. Impersonating, he repeated. Oh, performing a role the system abandoned. There it was, the narcissism, the delusion. She kept the camera steady, lens aimed at his chest. She'd already uploaded the plate, the badge, the car. It was in the cloud. It couldn't be erased now. But he didn't seem concerned. Inside the duplex, things were eerily pristine. No mess, no personal touches, just a mattress on the floor, 2 uniforms hung with surgical precision on a coat rack, and a corkboard filled with articles, maps, photos, victims, timelines, patrol routes. He'd been documenting everything, and not just for planning. For pride. You know what I realized? Naomi, he asked as he gestured for her to step inside. She didn't move. There's no real difference between a badge and a costume. People obey what they fear. They obey symbols. Her fingers curled tighter around her phone. She didn't want to give him what he wanted, an audience. But she had to keep him talking. Buying time. You terrorized people, she said. You used that costume to break into homes, to violate women. And now someone's dead. He smiled. A man who was trafficking girls out of his basement. You didn't get that far in your little dossier, did you? She froze. What? He nodded toward the corkboard. Check his name. Samuel Klein. You'll find sealed records. Moved to Chicago under an alias. You think your precious precinct knew? They didn't want to touch it. Naomi stepped slowly toward the board. There it was, Samuel Klein, a red X over his face. Under it, newspaper clippings, a sealed indictment file, partially redacted. If this was real, had he killed a criminal? But that didn't make it right. It didn't explain the others. And the traffic stops? She asked sharply. The fake warrants. The woman in Hyde Park who said you groped her during a weapons search? He toned. The calm cracked. Just a flicker. She lied, he said. Too quickly. Did she? Silence. Then, I was testing them, he said, his tone shifting into something colder. Seeing how far they'd go to protect themselves. Every one of them had something to hide. Naomi stared at him. You're not a cop. You're not a hero. You're just another man who wanted power without accountability. He laughed, low, bitter. And what do you want? Naomi? Recognition? A commendation? You want to be the woman who brought down the ghost. She didn't answer, because right now, she wanted to survive. That's when she saw it, the glint of silver in his hand. A stun baton. She backed toward the door, inch by inch, calculating the odds. But Marcus didn't charge. He didn't even raise the baton. I'm not going to hurt you, he said quietly. Not unless you scream. She kept eye contact. Then, like muscle memory, she moved, slammed the door into his shoulder, twisted toward the hallway, and ran. She could hear his boots behind her, close. Too close. But she didn't stop. Not until she hit the stairs, leaped over 2 at a time, and burst into the sunlight like someone breaking the surface of drowning water. Neighbors saw her. She screamed one word. Imposter. And suddenly, there were witnesses. People emerging. Phones raised. Marcus froze halfway down the stairs. He knew it was over. But that's when he did something Naomi didn't expect. He smiled. Slowly. Calmly. Like he'd planned it all along. Always leave on your own terms, he said. Then he ran, not away, but into his SUV. Naomi shouted, his armed. Get back, as he gunned the engine and peeled out of the driveway. The chase made the local news. By the time IA mobilized, Marcus had ditched the SUV. Surveillance caught him on foot, shedding gear piece by piece like a snake losing skin. His last known location, a subway station near Logan Square. Then, nothing. No credit card use. No phone signals. No sightings. He vanished. Again. For 2 days, the city spun in confusion. The mayor released a statement condemning malicious impersonators and promised reforms. But Naomi wasn't interested in statements. She was back in the precinct. This time, everyone paid attention when she walked in. Her file had gone viral internally. Someone had leaked it. Analysts. Officers. Even Mercer now treated her with a stiff nod of respect. You were right, he muttered. You caught him. Well, almost. She didn't correct him. He didn't understand. This wasn't over. That night, Naomi received an unmarked envelope at her apartment. No return address. No name. Just a USB drive inside. Against every instinct, she plugged it in using an air-gapped laptop. A single folder. Videos. Dozens of them. Each title with a name and a date. She clicked the first one and stopped breathing. It was Marcus, in uniform, smiling into a dashboard camera. Calm. Cheerful. As if making a vlog. Officer Dorn, he said to the camera. February 19th, 2023. Operation Clean Sweep. Subject, Daniel Fry. Offense, suspected domestic battery. Intervened after hours. Subject subdued. The camera shook. Naomi fast-forwarded. There was blood. But more disturbingly, there was no resistance. Fry had been tied, gagged, and Marcus spoke to him like a teacher correcting a failing student. This is how justice should feel, he said. Naomi sat frozen. She clicked the next video, and the next. Every one of them told the same story. Marcus acting as judge, jury, and enforcer. Dozens of men, alleged abusers, thieves, traffickers, caught in situations where the law hadn't stepped in. How had he found them? How had no one seen this before? And why now? Was he sending the videos to her? Her phone rang an hour later. Blocked number. She didn't answer. It went to voicemail. Then played. You're not like them, Naomi. His voice was quiet. Controlled. You didn't just chase headlines. You listened. That's why I chose you. Click. She stayed at the phone. Marcus wasn't done. He was just beginning a new game, and she had been cast in it. The USB drive haunted her. Each video was a confession masquerading as a crusade. Marcus Dunn hadn't just impersonated a cop. He'd constructed an ideology. A warped mission to correct where the law had failed, framed with rehearsed monologues and edited footage that made him seem righteous. Controlled. But Naomi saw through it. These weren't acts of justice. They were vanity murders, each one a performance stage for his most important audience, himself. And now, Internal Affairs wanted her off the case. FBI too. They were calling it a sensitive inter-agency matter now, trying to scrub it before the press got hold of the videos. But Naomi had already shared copies, with a lawyer, a reporter she trusted, and 2 national watchdog groups. This couldn't be buried. But Marcus hadn't sent the USB to make a point. He was leading her somewhere. She replayed the voicemail. You didn't just chase headlines. You listened. That's why I chose you. The words weren't just flattery. They were a clue. She went back through the footage, looked for patterns, time codes, language, and then she found it. The names. Each subject's name in the videos matched case files, ones that had been closed with no prosecution. Some were sealed. Some were simply lost in red tape. But someone had gone digging. That someone was Marcus. And if Naomi could figure out where he was pulling these names from, she could find his next move. She didn't sleep for 36 hours. Cross-referenced everything. Patterns emerged. Each operation happened exactly 60 days after the subject's case had been dropped, dismissed, or ignored. The last video was dated June 6th. Today was August 5th. That meant tonight, there would be another victim. The name popped out at her like blood through white linen. Brandon Wilkes. Case closed June 6. Charges: assault, intimidation, illegal weapons possession. The DA never pursued it. Insufficient evidence. Brandon had a YouTube channel now. Gloating. Selling warrior mindset training. He'd moved to a gated suburb in Oak Lawn, away from the city. Naomi stayed at the screen. Everything in her said Marcus would go after him. But not as Marcus. As Officer Dorn, one last time. Naomi didn't tell IA. Didn't ask permission. She drove to Oak Lawn just past sunset, parking her car 2 blocks from Wilkes' house. The air was thick with summer heat, cicadas buzzing. Lights were on inside the house. Music playing. A woman's laugh drifted through the open kitchen window. Naomi's phone buzzed. Blocked number. She picked up this time. Did you find him? Marcus's voice was soft, almost proud. I found you, she replied, eyes scanning the street. And you're not walking away this time. I'm not walking away at all, he said. I've already done what I came to do. Wilkes is gone. Go check. She froze. That couldn't be true. She raced to the house, knocked on the door. A young woman opened it, confused, annoyed. No sign of violence. No panic. No blood. Wilkes stepped into the doorway behind her, beer in hand. Alive. Smirking. You with the city? He asked, glancing at Naomi's badge clipped to her belt. Tell your people to stop stalking me. She backed away. Marcus lied. Or, he hadn't reached Wilkes yet, which meant Naomi was ahead of him. And if Marcus was watching, he knew she'd realize that. He wasn't leading her to a victim this time. He was leading her to himself. She returned to her car. Another envelope waited under the windshield wiper. Inside, a photo of Naomi standing outside the IA building, looking up at the windows. Taken days ago. On the back, a handwritten message. The system will not fix itself. You have 1 hour. Below it, an address. An abandoned public school near the South Loop. Of course. A stage. Empty. Symbolic. She called for backup, but didn't wait. She knew she had to go. The school was a husk, its windows broken, its doors chained shut except one, left slightly ajar. Naomi entered with her flashlight drawn. The hall smelled of rust and mold. Water dripped some way. Her shoes echoed. Then she saw it, light coming from the old gymnasium. And him. Marcus stood center court, dressed in full uniform. Badge 4977 gleamed under a hanging floodlight. A video camera sat on a tripod nearby, red light blinking. Welcome, he said, arms open. This isn't justice, Naomi said. It's a vanity project. Marcus nodded. Of course it is. What else is justice? Really? A spectacle. A vote of belief. He stepped toward her. Slowly. They're already coming for you, Naomi. Your department. The media. You leaked the footage, didn't you? She said nothing. You thought I'd be angry, he continued. But I'm grateful. You forced the endgame. He reached for something in his jacket. Naomi tensed. He pulled out a small flash drive. The final video, he said. Not a kill. A confession. He handed it to her. Why me? She asked. Why send it all to me? Marcus smiled. Because you believed me, and still didn't let me win. That's the rarest thing in this country now. Someone who believes in truth over control. He took a slow breath, looked up at the ceiling, as if waiting for a spotlight. Then, gunshots. The doors burst open. IA agents. Tactical unit. Floodlights. Marcus dropped to his knees, hands behind his head. He didn't resist, just smiled. Because this was exactly how he wanted to be remembered. The trial was brief. The evidence Naomi gathered was overwhelming. The videos sealed his fate. But Marcus used the courtroom like a pulpit. He framed himself not as a killer, but a corrective force, an answer to a broken system. And some believed him. Protests followed. Conspiracies bloomed online. Officer Dorn was the only one who protected us. He punished the ones who deserved it. Naomi Reyes destroyed a hero. But Naomi didn't flinch. Because the truth didn't care about applause. And justice, real justice, had no audience. Naomi was offered a promotion, a press conference, even a book deal. She declined. Instead, she created a task force, not to catch pretenders like Marcus, but to prevent the systems that allowed them. She changed internal policy, improved badge security, built a database for tracking impersonation trends, and, quietly, started consulting with victims whose cases had once been ignored. Because she knew, somewhere out there, another Marcus was waiting. And next time, they wouldn't be underestimated.